Yes. Oh, there's an abundance of flowers here. Wow. There's abundance of love in this room. You think there was something special going on today? Some special celebration. A lot of talk about moms. Yes, happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. And how many of you are mothers or have at some point in your life filled that kind of mothering role? Either, yes, yeah, get those hands up. Those of you who are on Facebook and YouTube, also put it in the chat. Yeah, that's me. If a child, a stepchild, even a pet counts, okay? Your mother to a pet? Yeah. Happy Mother's Day. We are celebrating the immense love, the dedication, the guidance, the nurturance, and the endless hard work all of that involves. So definitely celebrating you. And I'm going to come back around to that a little bit later. But first, I wanted to just kind of do a quick recap of where we were last week, because we're talking about, and I know that the service, we had some technical problems, and not everybody was able to see the whole thing, was watching online. So I'll just kind of recap that we were talking about gratitude, about doing a practice of radical gratitude, where we really are, doing this process of calling forth the spiritual in our human experience. It's gratitude connects those two. That's why it's so powerful. It opens our awareness to oneness, and we really witness the fact that the universe is for us and that everything is working together for our good, right? And so we made May we decided May was going to be a month that we just celebrate all the blessings in our life, right? And we talked about at least five gratitudes a day, at least five that we're going to write down. And to support you in that, I gave you all your own gratitude journals. So if you didn't get that, let me know. I think we have some extra copies. But, make a commitment that you're going to be using them, It's a daily practice. So how is it going with that? Some people know, some people no? Yeah? You mean you just didn't get to it, or you can't find anything to be grateful for? You didn't get to it. Okay. You know what? Anytime we sort of make a commitment and we don't follow through, in every moment, we can make a commitment again, right? And say, you know what? I'm going to do it because I know how powerful it is. It really can. Once we think of one thing, we think of another thing, and it leads to another, it leads to another, and suddenly there's just so many things that we're filling our journals. Anybody have that experience? They're like so many, they're writing down, yeah? Yeah, and then you feel that energy, that energy that kind of moves you. It's really one of those ways that we can live at the intersection of fully human and fully divine. So today, I want to kind of shift course a little bit and talk about the other part of this, the human part of the equation. Because even when we've got the gratitude journals going, even when we got our practice going, and we've got, a commitment to living centered in our oneness with Spirit, sometimes we have one of those days. You know what I mean? No, you never had that one. One of those days, right? And I don't care how spiritually advanced you are. It's everybody forgets. Everybody has those times when we forget our divinity, we forget the divinity of others, we forget that we are powerful co-creators, right? And that's, it's human, it's natural, it's, every one of us does that. So how many of you have had this experience where you wake up in the morning and you feel like, oh, this is going to be a good day. I'm feeling really positive about this day. And then you begin your practices, your meditation. Maybe you're guided, in the labyrinth. You're walking the labyrinth and the medicine wheel. Or you're doing your gratitude journal, and you're feeling like so positive about how the day is going to unfold. Maybe you're even exclaiming, "This is the day that God has made, and I rejoice in it." And then someone comes to you with a little something that has become a problem, and now it's yours to handle. And then you become aware that there's another problem that you need to address. And then, there's just this little fire burning over here, and you got to pay attention to this and put that out. And then you notice there's this bigger fire over here that you got to put out. And after a while, it just becomes like, oh, wow, this day has become one big problem to solve. Anybody feel like that? Yeah, I think just about everyone, right? And, here's the thing. Some of us really enjoy this process of solving problems. Sometimes we do. It's like a giant puzzle to work out. And it stretches our brains. We apply our creativity, we apply our background, and we feel the satisfaction of finding solutions to a problem. And if that involves someone else, then we feel like useful, right? Like we've done something to help someone else. So that's good to keep in mind the next time, we face one of those days, right? It's good to keep in mind. But sometimes it just gets a little too much, right? It gets a bit much. And we just feel like, wow, nothing we can do fixes anything. Sometimes someone misconstrues what we said, or maybe we said something carelessly, and no amount of apologizing is fixing that, right? Sometimes friendships end. Sometimes marriages break up. Sometimes people can't make a go of business and they have to declare bankruptcy. Sometimes a loved one dies. Sometimes we get a diagnosis that comes out of nowhere. And all of those things can send us deeply into our humanness. Deeply into our humanness. One of the wonderful ways that unity and New Thought has been evolving is that we no longer blame the person for creating the negative experience in their lives. There was a time we used to say, oh, I wonder what was in your consciousness that attracted that experience, right? Yeah. Well, now that kind of uncaring statement is considered metaphysical malpractice. That's what we call it, metaphysical malpractice. Most of us in New Thought are recognizing that sometimes stuff happens that doesn't seem to be corresponded to any kind of, thinking or what we're holding in our consciousness. We're beginning to understand the effect of the collective unconscious and soul contracts. And, we talked about these things before during the Five Principles series. And just some things we just don't, fully understand. Sometimes things are beyond our control. What is in our control is how we move through these experiences, right? How we move through them. And we can choose to move through them from our humanness, and that's okay. That's okay. Let's cut ourselves a break. We are learning here. We are on a journey toward wholeness, as we always say. We are all growing. And just, sometimes a great big, healthy dose of self-compassion is what's needed. Very often, a big, healthy dose of self-compassion is what's needed. You know, and it's interesting because we find it so easy to be compassionate for other people who are going through situations similar to ours, right? Easy. But when it comes to us, it's like, what? Why can't we be, you know, compassionate to ourselves, show ourselves some love? So, you know, really important to learn that, to embrace that, to enfold ourselves with some compassion. And then after a while, sometimes, you know, we go, I'm sick of the pain. Or sometimes our friends don't want to talk to us anymore because they're sick of us complaining. And sometimes it's time for us to put on our big girl panties, face the situation, and change our approach, change the way we are thinking about the situation, change the way we're going through this, change our thinking and connect with our higher power, connect with our spiritual power. John Kabat-Zinn, do you know who he is? A mindfulness teacher, has been around for a long time. He once said, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. You know, so we either let the waves pull us under or we learn to surf them. So earlier this week, I attended the UMass Ministers meeting, which is the Unity Ministers of the Mid-Atlantic States. And we get together twice a year. This time it was in Raleigh, which was like, you know, only 40 minutes away. Usually I'm driving all the way down to South Carolina or, you know, Georgia or something. So I was so grateful that it was here. And wonderful hosts. It was at the Unity of the Triangle. Newsom and Anna were such fabulous hosts. And it was intensive. It was like 9 in the morning till late at night, and they were just on. And so, you know, created this incredible container. So we come together, you know, we support each other, we meet, we plan the fall retreat, which I'll tell you more about in a couple of weeks. Planning some good stuff. And, you know, the first thing we start off with is something called heart checks. So we sit in a circle, and we all take some time to share what's on our heart. Nobody can understand the specific challenges a minister faces, you know, like another minister. So there's always some tears and laughter, some anger, some joy, love, you know, and ultimately an acknowledgement that we're all here for the same reason. We are all committed to doing what we can to support people in creating transformation in their lives through the unity principles, through love. We all do it in a little different way. That's the beauty of it, really. But we're all committed essentially to the same thing. And so I have to say, probably all of us, I was going to say most of us, but I think it was all of us, were sharing that the last 2 years have been a real challenge. No surprise. I think it's been a challenge for everybody. But, you know, for ministers and having a church, it's been difficult for everybody to hold something afloat when the attendance is weighing so much. You know, you can see that. Now, there was some good news that there were some communities who were just about to close their doors, and like a new minister has come in there, and they're resurrecting that, and that was so hopeful. That was so good to hear. But there was a couple of people who were sharing, and they were sharing that they had got caught under the waves. That they let the waves pull them under, and they were gasping for air for a couple of years. You know, just really having a hard time with it all in whatever specific thing. But the thing is, they didn't stay there. You know, they knew to reach out and draw upon the unconditionally loving circle, that were supporting them, and mentors and prayer partners and teachers, and constantly applying the principles that they know. And now they're rising to the surface. They're taking a breath. They can breathe. They're finding the surfboard. So that's really key. When you find yourself being pulled under those waves, reach out. Reach out. A prayer partner, a teacher, a spiritual coach, a mentor. Find a supportive group, loving, unconditionally loving supportive group. There are groups for just about anything, right? To find that. And that helps, let that help you rise to the surface so that you can breathe, so you can feel the sun on your face, so you can find that surfboard, and begin to learn to surf. In other words, so you can start seeing the possibilities. You can start seeing the light in the situation, the blessings in the situation. Now, then it's up to you to get on that surfboard and learn to surf. In other words, learn to apply these principles. Apply them. And one of the things, one of the practices that we can do that can help us, teach us to surf those waves, gratitude. Again, we go back to gratitude because gratitude can help us spot the possibilities that are there. See the blessing in the situation so that we can ride those waves through any challenge with grace and with ease. That's the goal, right? That's the goal. So, speaking of mothers, I can say with some degree of certainty that we all had imperfect mothers. One degree or another, right? Some more imperfect than others. Anybody have a perfect mother? Yeah, so sometimes Mother's Day, yeah, you do. Yeah. She's sitting right next to her. She better say, oh yeah, Mama was perfect.
They tend to become more perfect after they die.
Oh, right. That's true. After they pass, we notice how wonderful they were. It's so true. Oh, I know. Yeah, I mean, sometimes Mother's Day is complicated for some people when they think about, their relationship. What I can say with certainty is they all did the very best they could with the consciousness they had at the time. You can't do anything more than the consciousness you have at the time. Right? I feel pretty blessed having, of course, my mother's passed, so I can say that. But truly, I mean, she was loving, she was accepting. We went on our journey, a spiritual journey. We shared that together from the time I was 16 until she passed. I mean, it was really wonderful. But it wasn't always that way. When I was young, she was pulled under the surf, tumultuous waves. I mean, I lost my father, she lost her husband when I was 5 years old. So, and this was the love of her life. She never remarried. It was the love of her life. And she felt inadequate to raise 2 children on her own. These were the days where women were not empowered, to take things on, right? She didn't even have a job. She didn't have a checking account, had to learn everything. She had to learn it all. And the ocean nearly swallowed her whole, and us along with her, right? But eventually, she started making her way to the surface. some of you have shared with me that you had in your homes, regardless of whether you were raised Catholic or evangelical or Baptist or know-it-all, nothing at all, that you had a copy of a know-it-all. You were in. Some mothers are that way too, aren't they? She was a know-it-all in a know-it-all family. A copy of Daily Word was kind of omnipresent. Yeah? For those of you, yeah. We had it too. We had a copy. There was a copy of Daily Word. And my mother read that like constantly. It was dog-eared. And I know that she called Silent Unity several times and relied on that. So here she is coming to the surface. She's being lifted up to the surface. She's beginning to breathe the air. Then I start seeing spiritual books and personal empowerment books are coming into the house, and she's reading those. And there she is, coming above the surface, beginning to see that surfboard. And then I know, as I've shared with some of you before, when I was about 15 or 16, I found transcendental meditation. And I asked her if she wanted to do it with me, and she said yes. So we did that together, and then we found this little New Thought spiritual community where I grew up in San Diego, and we started going there together. And that's where she found her peeps. She found that supportive community of people who were unconditionally loving and supportive and helped her rise up to the surface and get on that surfboard. And she learned those practices. We practiced together. And before long, she was riding those waves, enjoying every moment of the way. I mean, I can still hear her giggling. Just giggling. I can hear it. So if you would join me in a little meditation, guided thing, if you just would settle back in your chairs and close your eyes for a minute. And we're just going to send some love to our mothers, to anybody who played that role in your life, a nurturing person, anybody who, shared guidance with you. Begin to take some deep breaths and really feel that divine life energy that is coming from your heart center. Really connecting here in your heart center. Breathing through that. And we bring to mind our mother or any of the other people who had influence when we were young. And we bless them in this moment, and we know that they did absolutely the very best they could with the consciousness they had at the time. We know that life has a tendency to sort of toss us around a bit, and we know that many of our mothers spent time being pulled under the waves, tossed around by life. So we just bless them and love them and forgive. This is a place where we can forgive. And we know for ourselves, too, if we've played that role in our lives, that sometimes we felt guilty for not being perfect, right? But in this moment, we also recognize that we have always done the best we possibly could with the consciousness we had at the time. And we're feeling an openness, a willingness to embrace ourselves with love and compassion. And if we're feeling in this moment pulled under the waves, We bless ourselves in that space, and we know that we're here growing, learning on our journey toward wholeness. And we call upon anybody who may be praying for us, our friends, our loved ones, people who love us. We know at any moment we can reach out to our spiritual community for support, for love, for guidance. And we just allow that energy of love to lift us up above the waves. Feeling the sun on our face, being able to breathe. And maybe now in this moment, we spot a surfboard. And it's a really cool looking surfboard. We're so grateful for that. Maybe we paddle over to it. We get on that surfboard. That gratitude practice that we have been practicing, or any other practice, whatever it is that we do, all of that is like developed muscle memory for us. So we can stand up on that surfboard. And we're standing up now, and we're seeing that wave. We're feeling that nice, big, beautiful wave coming our way. And we're so excited to take this wave and just ride it for all it's worth. And we stand up and we begin. Here it is. Here's the wave. We're surfing that wave. What joy. The wind in our face, the salt spray, the joy of that experience. Whee! Here we go. Taking a nice deep breath together. And bring your awareness back. And when you're ready, open your eyes. And so all of these beautiful things here, we would like to share with you. Ms. Waldo, yeah, if you would come up, maybe take that one. And I think, well, you can take what's left over, because I know Marlene is going to want one of those.
One is yours.
Well, why don't we just go ahead and pass them out if you would go over on that side, and let's just do that. There you are, my dear.
Pick yours. I knew.
There you are. And here, I've got a patch of daisies for you. You can't have a daisy yet. It's a whole branch of daisy.